2 raging book nerds, 14 years of friendship, and 1 burning question.
If Katniss Everdeen posted on Reddit, would she be the arsehole?
Welcome to Once Upon a Red Flag. This season, we're stepping into Panem, where every tribute, tyrant, and mentor gets their day in the Am I the Asshole courtroom.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Rachel.
And join us while we read between the red flags and break down the Hunger Games, one questionable decision at a time.
So if you hadn't guessed, we're discussing the Hunger Games this season for our first season ever. So for those of you who haven't read the Hunger Games, what the hell are you doing with your life? Genuine question. How have you missed this for the past, 14 years?
Has it been that long? Oh God, I feel old.
Longer? I think I was 16 when I first read the full series and I binged it in 3 days. So it must have been longer. So yeah, if you haven't read this, bookmark this now, because I will not forgive you if you don't come back. Go read or audio book, you guys do you, but then get your ass back here, because none of this will make sense otherwise. You kind of get a half pass if you've watched the movies, but there are differences. So don't be in the comments complaining that Katniss got the Mockingjay pin in the hob when no, she didn't. That was Madge, and I will not forgive. Okay, gives me a bit too strong, but no, you're right. I will not forgive them for ruling out Merrily and Mazily from that. Poor Madge. Poor Madge. Girl got her own issues, and now her newest issue is to be completely erased. But okay.
Oh God, that's so sad.
I mean, she's got enough problems living in District 12 to begin with, and now she no longer exists.
She's been erased.
Poor Madge. Can we have a moment of silence for Madge, please? There we go.
That's actually made me really upset.
Bless you.
It's fine. I just, old people make me upset. And I'm just thinking of her being elderly and then watching Katniss and then being erased. And I'm like, she just can't catch a break, can she?
She just really can't catch a break. No.
Yeah.
She's like, where's that pin come from? Oh, that was mine. That's my heirloom. It has significance. No, it doesn't. Not anymore. Just a nice little pretty trinket you found that you got for free. No reasoning behind it anymore. Yeah, I've gone on a massive tangent here. Welcome to the episode. I hope you strap yourselves in, because I think, have we already mentioned we're chaotic? Have you figured that bit out yet?
So, unmedicated ADHD, we're going to get in there. That's fine.
That's putting it mildly, but all right. Getting slightly back on track. For those of you that haven't read the series in a hot minute, if you have read it, fantastic, stick around. If you haven't read it in a while, want a bit of a refresher, 60 seconds. Explain the Hunger Games. Okay, I'm going to time you.
If I'd say, are you actually timing me?
You ready?
Really
Here.
serious. Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Okay, The Hunger Games is a flippin' great series written by Suzanne Collins. It's set in Panem, a dystopian North America where the capital, a terrifyingly weird capital city, rules over 12 districts with an iron fist. The Hunger Games, spoiler, is a brutal reality TV style battle where tributes, children, fight to the death until one, Victor, very loose, survives. Every year, one boy and one girl from each district are selected in a reaping. Katniss, our girl on fire, volunteers to save her sister, Prim. The games are both punishment for a past rebellion and also used as capital propaganda. Enter Katniss, Peter, and eventually Gale. Rebellion, war, and death. This world is the perfect boiling point for creating morally grey characters and red flag arseholes. Yuck, Gale. Oh, how'd I do?
That sounded quite scripted, to be honest. You beat the timer.
Okay.
It is pinging. Can you tell that I may have planned this question in advance? Katie, you did your homework.
Katie, I'm sorry.
Homework.
I'm such a teacher's pet. I was at school, and I clearly am still at 26. I can't do that completely off the top of my head. I do apologise.
But I really love how you called it dystopian America, as if America isn't already rapidly morphing into a dystopia right now.
It's scary.
Let's move on from that rather quickly. Sorry.
But yeah, I do want to say on that note, this podcast is an inclusive podcast. This podcast
very inclusive
is for
podcast.
Everybody, bisexual as hell. So you're fine. You're accepted here. Don't worry. And wherever you come from, do not care. And this country is probably a lot better. So wanted to get that out of the way. I think this is a problem when 2 very opinionated people get together to do a podcast and then have that with the unmedicated ADHD. We're going to go on a lot of tangents.
That's probably putting it mildly, to be honest. But
That's fine.
It's
That's fine.
fine.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
great.
Okay. But going back on track, Rachel, are we going to meet our first poster?
We will. So, our first poster is currently going by username Apart at the Seams. And the current title is Am I the Asshole for Letting My Teenage Daughter Sacrifice Herself to Keep the Family Alive?
Yikes. Okay.
Probably.
I mean, it depends. I'm very much, I want to know all the story first before I make an assumption. And I usually try to see the best in people, which is shot me in the back before. But yeah, maybe I should start making assumptions.
I make the assumptions. Maybe just assume the worst. And then if it goes the right way, you'll be pleasantly surprised. That's always better to be pleasantly surprised in life than the opposite. Right?
Yeah. I guess I've always tried to have the outlook of, oh, everything like will be fine. It has to. But then I think if you put me into the Hunger Games world and I had to be like, oh, I won't get raped, it'll be fine. Or like, you know, I can survive in the Hunger Games. It would be fine. I think I would be thinking
dead in 5 minutes.
Very differently. Oh, yeah, no, yeah. I would be dead in 5 minutes. Karate, it doesn't help. It doesn't do anything.
It really does. How long ago did you do karate as well? Because I have a kickboxing like I'm 6 weeks in, I'm a purple belt, but I was 10. So I remember shit all.
So I did karate for like 6 years in my teens. I was one away from black belt. I actually got quite far, but I went to uni, and as things happen when you go to university, you
get into drinking instead.
Oh yeah, and you lose all your hobbies, and you lose all your activities. You gain like a couple of stone, and then you don't understand where your metabolism has gone.
That's because they give away free pizza on Freshers Week.
Oh yeah, that doesn't help.
Do they still do that? Do they still do that?
When I went, but then I got to remember I went like 8 years ago.
I started university 10 years ago. I graduated 7 years ago. So whether they still give away Domino's pizza for free for like a week solid every term, I don't know. But that is also why you go away at university, because they just give you free junk food.
I was actually going to say, anybody who listens who is at uni, can you please confirm? Yeah. Do they still do the week of Domino's pizza? Because now I really want to know. Trying to come back from the tangent, I'm actually thinking, have you ever seen anyone eat pizza in the Hunger Games? Do they have pizza?
I mean, theoretically, Katniss could make a pizza because she's got Prim's goat cheese.
Yeah.
And they have grain that they make bread from.
Yeah.
It's like shit bread.
But tomatoes, sauce. I mean, it'd be a shit pizza.
You can make a white pizza.
What the hell's a white pizza?
It's just cheese. They don't.
That feels wrong. Being in District 12 and then
not
having
eating
food.
pizza.
No, but then like not having much food available, and then having food allergies to all the food that is available. Can you imagine being celiac when grain's like one of the only things you've got?
Yeah, because that's your tester, isn't it? You can only get you just get grain and oil. You don't get anything else.
Do gluten-free people just not exist in Panem?
Can you? I don't think you could afford to be gluten-free. I think it's kind of like you eat the gluten or you die. I mean, arguably you eat the gluten and you die, but at the same time,
there must be food allergies.
There has to be.
But okay, I'm going to put this question to you. Obviously, you have some like food issues. I used to.
I do.
If you got reaped for the Hunger Games, you've been having horrible food for most of your life. You go to the Hunger Games, you know you're probably going to die. Do you just eat all the food you want to eat, even if it's going to hurt you anyway?
I mean, probably.
I mean, yeah, probably.
Probably, yeah. Because like you get reaped, right? You get taken in the train, and the second you get on board, you get like food of the gods. Effectively, is how it must feel to these people. So you are surrounded by like rich desserts and ice cream and hot chocolate for the first time and all this stuff. I mean, you've got what, 3 weeks? 3 weeks I've got health issues. From my perspective, so I'm gluten intolerant and dairy intolerant because they trigger off inflammatory bowel disease within me. And to be honest, if I know I'm gonna like be murdered in the first 5 minutes, might as well enjoy myself. Might as well.
I feel like I'd stop caring at that point. If you know you haven't got like a fighting chance, you might as well just enjoy the last 3 weeks.
Arguably, you'd probably go into the Hunger Games weaker.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like this is the country where like they fix Katniss's busted ear, right? They give Peter a prosthetic leg. So you're not telling me that they also don't have some sort of like magical mystery cure for intolerances and autoimmune diseases like I've got, or even just the fact that they can probably make gluten-free and milk-free taste good. It doesn't taste bad.
Yeah.
It doesn't taste bad.
Uh-huh.
Like, as someone who's
Uh-huh.
been gluten-free for 5 years? Has it been 5 years? And lactose-free for, like, 7. Maybe 8. Like, it doesn't taste bad. But the number of times people will have food that I eat and then they just go, how are you eating that? I'm like, because I've not had cheese since I was 20.
Cheese.
Not had actual cheese since I was 20. This is the best I've got. It's fine. I'll deal.
Okay. All right. I have one.
It's possible.
I have one final question for you before we get
Okay.
back on track and we go to the post and we see what on earth has happened in this woman's life. If you had one last meal before going into the Hunger Games, what would your meal be?
Okay. Okay. So, going off the fact that I can't eat dairy and can't eat gluten, I would eat dairy and gluten. And I would very, very specifically go to the takeaway I used to go to as a student that was a 5-minute walk from my house. And I had this conversation with a colleague the other day. And every time I would get the greasiest cheese pizza known to man. This was obviously before I had to go free from. Greasiest cheese pizza known to man. And you would then sort of spend about 5 minutes going, do I get the popcorn chicken as well? Do I get a side of fries as well? And eventually you'd buy all of it. So you'd end up with a pizza the size of your head and a good sized portion of popcorn chicken and fries. Cover it in red salt, can of Coke. And then there was also a Tesco Express really close by that did the best chocolate gatto. And I would devour all of it. That would be about 5,000 calories in one meal.
I mean, you'd need
But
that
I'd
for
be
the games.
storing.
Yeah, you would store the calories.
Storing it up.
For when you go into the games, into the arena, and you can't find any flipping food because you don't know how to hunt, because why would you?
Why would you? No, exactly.
Yeah. To be fair, mine would probably be Korean fried chicken, and there's someone near me that does these really good miso salted fries.
You do like the
so
miso.
good. And then dessert, probably a good tiramisu. Just like if I'm going out, I want something that I usually can't afford. And when you're broke like me, usually tiramisu you can't afford.
Doesn't really matter in the long run, does it? If you're gonna die anyway, like who gives a shit about your finances? Question.
Huh?
So I've realised neither of us has mentioned alcohol. Would you get pissed?
I don't really care about alcohol. So no, you know when Katniss is like, oh, I've never had wine before, and she tries the wine, and then she's like, oh, my head's feeling a bit fuzzy, so I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna switch to water. I'm like, girl, good choice. That's what you should do. That's what everybody should do when they start not feeling good. And then she's like, oh, I don't know how Haymitch lives like this all the time. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. Like if I have like wine or alcohol and my head goes funny, I'm like, yes, I'm like Katniss. I'm just gonna stop.
I do know my limit. Like I'll know when I sort of go, you know what, like I've had enough now. Let's have some water before I continue. And like I'm good at keeping myself in like the sweet spot of having fun, but not like blacking out. I've never understood the idea of blacking out drunk. Never wanted to get blackout drunk. Never purposely left anywhere to get blackout. Because how do you know you've had a good time?
You don't.
You don't remember it. So you don't know you've had a good time. And that's when people come back to you going, oh, do you remember when you pulled your shirt up on this table? There's video evidence on Snapchat.
Is that what happens in the North, Rachel?
I've definitely seen some things. I've never done much things. But I have seen some things.
You look scarred.
Do not bear repeating.
For anybody who's not watching on YouTube and is just listening to audio only, Rachel looks like she's seen some things.
I have, yeah. I've been through university in the north of England. I've lived in the north of England.
Yeah.
I'm from the north of England.
Yeah, you're northern, Rachel.
I am northern.
If you've forgotten. Yeah.
People do seem to forget that sometimes about me. I have to admit.
highly doubt that. No, I don't think they would.
Shall we get into the post? Shall we actually be serious for a minute and get into the post? Our first post is coming from user Part at the Seams. And the title of her post is, "Hi the asshole for allowing my teenage daughter to sacrifice herself to keep the family alive." So, doesn't sound great to begin with, but okay.
No.
Let's give her the benefit of the doubt. And I'll get going. So she says, recently something happened that really hammered home that I may have been neglecting my eldest daughter for a long time. Years ago, my husband died in an accident at work. It was horrible. We had 2 children and it was his income that mostly kept us afloat. And one day he just never came home. I didn't handle it well. I rapidly stopped leaving the house, and I could barely summon the energy to do more than stare at the wall all day. Without him, everything seemed cold, meaningless, and empty. In hindsight, I know I should have been out more, trying to earn more money to replace what we had lost, and I should have tried to create a sense of normalcy for the girls, but I just couldn't. I think I went somewhere else for that span of time. I didn't feel in my body, in my life. I couldn't bring myself to really care about anything. We got a bit of money paid to us from the government to compensate for the loss of my husband and his earnings, but it was never meant to last as very long. It did eventually run out. I don't think I really registered at the time, but my eldest daughter took it upon herself to provide for us when the money ran out. She was still in school, as was our youngest, but she took it upon herself to hunt illegally, trading whatever we didn't need to vary our diets. She kept the house running, kept food on the table, even when it looked like we were about to starve. I know some people in town also took pity on us, on her, for trying to provide for herself, her sister, and a grown adult, but she shouldered a lot of that burden on her own. I did eventually get better, and we get by all right now. I make a little money, but she still hunts and trades, and she's taught her younger sister how to make cheese to sell as well. But our relationship has never truly mended. She's recently volunteered to go off and fight to the death, save her sister from having the same fate. She's only 16. When she said goodbye, there wasn't really an emotional farewell from her. She spent her time teaching us how to get by without her. Even now, she's protecting us when she's still only a child herself. She warned me not to check out again because her little sister needs me, and it's now on me to keep her alive. I know I failed both of them. I know grief isn't an excuse for letting my life get so badly away from me. Part of me wonders if I'm a weak person for letting it get so bad, and for leaving my eldest thinking that going back into that state is still a possibility for me. It's worrying her about that possibility that's led to this situation to begin with. She sees herself as having to be our protector, not me being her protector. So am I the asshole for allowing her to take on this burden?
Eesh, that's heavy.
Where do we start with this?
Okay, that's really
Dark.
sad. That's a good, very dark as our pilot episode.
Pilot episode is just trauma.
Okay, well, yeah, fitting, really, isn't it? Okay, so bringing in what we know about the Hunger Games, I want to point out that the dad's death didn't just affect the mother.
No.
Obviously, that's like, you know, that kind of really goes without saying. But we know Katniss in the book has flashbacks and almost mild panic attacks that make her remember his death. So when the train goes under the miles and miles of rock as it goes into the capital, we hear like, well, because I did the audiobook, we hear Katniss remarks that her chest gets tight. It reminds her of the mounds and mounds of earth that buried her father. So I feel like even though we don't necessarily hear her have these kind of memories of her father, or where she's like cried over his death and where she's been really upset or kind of fall into this kind of depth of depression like her mum has done, which has been so obvious in the book, we still see her have these kind of moments of panic. We can tell that this really has affected her and that she hasn't really had the time to process it at all.
And I think one of the things that sticks in my mind as well is that this is how she met Gale for the first time. Because he was also like collecting this like medal of honor as the eldest child in the household. So it's not just happened to one family at once here. Like the grief is not even like wholly her own. There's more families that are also grieving. And I can't tell if that's better or worse. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, like, is it good to have someone who understands how you feel? Or is it worse because the tragedy hasn't just happened to you? And therefore, like, you're also comparing other families' reactions to the tragedy and how they're grieving based on your own family. So
I
the
think,
kids are watching mum sink away, but then every other family's got the same as well.
I think it's really scary. I think in that point, it's almost to have someone that you can share that grief with and who like really understands what you're going through, I think is really helpful. And I think her having Gale, obviously we know, has been really helpful, even though I'm a big #Gale hater, but I think
I mean, for obvious reasons, which we'll get into later.
But I think having Gale in her life who understood that was a good thing. But I think when you speak in kind of the whole respect of District 12 in itself, I think it's not good that they've had so many people get used to having tragedies like this.
Yeah. And
it's
then
horrible.
you also bring in the fact that, so even if you have a close-knit community, these are people with limited resources. So say you've got a neighbor who is willing to help you out. How many families then do they have to choose between who they help? Because if one parent's died in one family and there's a neighbor who's gone, I'll take the kids on the mowing a little bit just to give them a bit of support, fantastic. But then you've got multiple families who have the same problem. Who do you pick? Do you pick Gail's family? Gail's got what, 2 brothers and a third, like at the time of the tragedy, his mother's pregnant with another one about to pop.
I can't even imagine.
So 2 girls or 4 boys about to be like, and one about to be born. Like, who would you pick to help? And then that then puts you end up having to compare grief. You end up having to compare the situation, and it's not like you can compare those things because everyone grieves in their own way. But in that scenario, you have to pick someone because you do not have the resources to like cover yourself, let alone cover everyone.
Well, getting into like having just the resources within a family as well, like losing your husband, like horrible, and then children losing their father is awful, and to go from having income from your husband to then all of a sudden being like, yeah, he's died, horrible, but then also you're completely cut off. That's so shocking to the system.
I think we're dealing with it's kind of a patriarchal society as well. I mean, we're all patriarchal society, but here in terms of, it seems to be very much like, because when the book's Katniss comments that like her mum like was going to have to get a job. So up to this point, she did not have a job, which means that there is somehow one man providing for an entire family, the way like it used to be when one income here was actually feasible to feed a wife and 3 other kids. And all of a sudden you could survive off that. That's kind of how it is now. You've got one provider for the entire family, and that provider goes, and then mum's going to have to step up, and then mum doesn't step up.
Yeah, I think that's the really scary thing for Katniss and Prim, obviously being so young and then not having, for many reasons of her own, that she can't step up. And I even know from personal experience, I, last year, recently went from being in a situation where I was living with someone where we had 2 incomes to help afford the mortgage and bills, and then to go from all of a sudden, oh God, I've got to figure this out on my own. Like, I need to figure out how I'm going to pay for food and bills and everything on my own. So like when you're distraught and you're upset because you've lost something so big, and then to go and be like, oh, I've got to figure out everything else out as well. I've got to be an adult. And then, God forbid, like I had children I was also looking afterwards.
Yeah, like, you will need to feed yourself now. I think, so you have less bills in that scenario.
I think I would slip into a similar thing as a mum, to be honest, in this case. And obviously, the world we live in is not as horrible as District 12 and being in the districts and struggling to live. Katniss remarks that District 12 is the place that people can starve in safety, like due to the fence, which I think is like really ironic. Like, the fence keeps the children safe from these wild animals they're told about in the woods. Yeah, but like they still might be turned into modern day gladiators, and you still have children dying from starvation. So I think it's very ironic. Like, they say, "Oh, we'll keep you safe," but are you really?
Are you actually safe to begin with? But the thing is that, like, say you didn't have the fence there, clearly, like, Katniss disregards the fence and can fend for herself, right? That is how she keeps her family alive. So part of me is sort of going, well, hang on a minute. Are you not just fencing your people off from resources so that you keep them hungry? Because hungry people are easier to control. You can control people better with food for their own survival than you can like with any other form of control, because clearly like they could fend for themselves, and you're really not telling me that the fence is there to keep them safe from predators, because you're literally going to round them up. You don't give one. If you literally have peacekeepers who will shoot someone in the head for any small act of rebellion. What is it? Isn't it stealing is like penalty is death,
which is just like insane. Why?
And what are they going to steal? There's nothing of value apart from food to keep them alive.
But to be put to death because you stolen bread, so that just seemed really like. But plus, you need these people to work. So in the capital, they need these people to work to supply stuff for them, and then you're just getting rid of people.
but they'll just provide you just enough that you can live, just enough to survive. Not just enough that you're comfortable. You have just enough to live. Like, you're still under control. You've still got some hope that you can put food on the table, and it's that small amount of hope that you can survive, which keeps them in line and working. I think that's something that, like, Snow even says later on, is like, some hope, but not too much hope. Too much hope's bad, but just about enough is okay to keep them in line.
Hope is a powerful thing. I think when you're in a really dark, horrible place, hope can be really powerful, because you think, oh, like, things can get better, I can get better, situations will get better. And honestly, most of the time they usually do. But I think when you're in a place like District 12, hope is almost turned into like a dominating tool by the Capitol. It's not something good. It's not something powerful for each individual person. It's not going to keep them safe. It's not going to give them their own individual power. Like, it's used by the Capitol as a control technique. Even 100%. When you see them talking about the games, and they're like, they kind of almost give each tribute hope that they could win, like, even if they're from a really small district, even if they've had no training, even if they're underfed, they're malnourished, they still kind of give them hope.
Because you can get a sponsor, even if you have no skills at all, you can get a sponsor. And if you get a good enough sponsor and you are charming enough and courageous enough and pretty enough, they will pay to feed you, right? And arguably then you could theoretically be better fed in the games, about to die, than in your own hometown.
Which
is really fucking dark.
It's twisted, isn't it? It's so twisted. But I think Suzanne Collins I love this series.
She's kind of nailed it, to be honest.
Yeah, as an author. And we know she only brings out books when she really has things she wants to say.
And she says them. Girl says them.
She really says them. And I think in just kind of that, in that way, she's tried to depict that control by the Capitol and the districts. God, I just really hope that the world does not fully end up like this.
Yeah, let's hope that she's not got some crystal ball into the future, to be honest.
Yeah, we hope.
Before we move on to like the next bit of the post, there's like one more thing that I've picked up on that I want to mention, right? Because it's not just that this is a rarity, right? Just because Dad's been in the mines and there's been some accident in the mines that he's ended up not coming home. Katniss remarks that even like full families that haven't lost anyone will starve. That's not uncommon because they have too many mouths to feed and not enough resources to do that. Which kind of led to the outrageous thought in my mind of, where did the contraceptions go? I
think most of your thoughts are outrageous, Rachel. So I feel like this is very much on brand you to bring up.
Quite possibly, yeah. I do tend to not fixate on the important parts, just the complete side notes. But I think it's worth addressing because this is a dystopian future, right? So if we're thinking of it being from the future, I know contraceptives did exist. They did. So is that like a population control thing? Is this idea because you need the workers, for one, to keep the mines running? Would you just not choose actively, not like Katniss chooses actively that she does not want kids? She doesn't want to be in a relationship, so this situation doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
So, but in that sense, would contraceptives be classed as rebellious? Would that be a punishable crime?
I think they would, because, well, the Capitol doesn't want people not having children, right?
Because they need them to in the mines to farm
they don't just need the children in the mines and to farm and to help get them supplies, but they also
need someone to kill.
Yes, no, exactly. They need someone that they can offer up as a modern day adolescent gladiator that they can idolize and have on this twisted reality TV show. Like they need what's the word? They need people to cast. Rachel, when people don't have children, they have no casting.
Forcibly cast. Yeah, but this is the thing as well. Like, so what's the best way to control a parent is to harm their kids, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have kids, your adults would not be anywhere near controllable enough. You're not worried about the kids rebelling, are you? Like at 12 to 18. Those guys have puberty to suffer. Maybe they should have been. You might be right with that one. I have a whole thing coming up for that. Okay. But that won't be this episode, so stick around. But that's the thing, like, they aren't gonna, they've got puberty. They've got, like, bigger things to worry about than dying tomorrow. They're not worried about future generations yet. Katniss clearly is, because she sees the horror, but that's because she becomes parent.
Well, she is, really.
She's the parent. I have
She
a whole
is the
thing about
parent.
this later.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll leave it be. I'll
well,
let you get.
like,
I'll let you get it in later.
Put it back in the box and move along.
Okay.
But that's the thing. Like, the parents, if you can't control, and Katniss is controlled by her family as well. She's worried about the repercussions for her family, not for herself.
Oh,
she
yeah.
doesn't
She
give one.
doesn't care about herself.
She's like, kill me all you want. I'm going into the games. Chances are I'm going to die, but don't hurt my family.
Yeah, and most of the times that you see her trying to survive, like in the games, the multiple times she's in the games, and you see her mainly thinking about herself and mainly trying to survive. It's honestly, it all comes back to Prim. All
Every
these times that
single
she's
time.
trying to survive, it all comes back to Prim at the end of the day, which, I mean, makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
Makes
a lot of sense.
Now I'm sad.
Let's not talk about Prim so much. Let's just think of Prim happy and alive until we get to book 3, please, for the love of God.
Okay.
Because that scene broke me.
Yeah, no, same. Like, I'm now upset. I've upset myself, which honestly figures.
Yeah, I mean, you did this to yourself. I'm not plotting this. I did not. Okay, shall we move on to what else she's got to say? Because I feel like we kind of know where she's coming from now. This is the kind of world she's living in. But are her actions, like, justified?
Going from what we know about her mom's relationship with her dad, I'd love to talk about the significance of the mum being from, obviously, the merchant side. So, having the blonde hair, being in, no part of District 12 is really affluent, but being from a more
it's
affluent
the more
area.
affluent bit.
Yeah. And then picking to be with someone from the seam who, has less than she could have had if she'd stayed where she was, and which would bring her down a level on the poverty line, essentially. And it obviously meant that, Katniss has that dark hair, which you see a lot in the seam, but then Prim and her mother had the blonde hair, which was typically merchant side, so it did make them stand out. And I really think this is really important to talk about, because when you're in District 12 and you're in the merchant side, and District 12 is brutal enough, but you're from arguably the slightly better side, to be so in love with somebody that you would go, and step down on the poverty line for them, that's a big thing, right?
That is a huge thing, to actually, like, give up what is effectively your privilege. And I think I'm wondering whether part of this plays into how she responds to the tragedy, because I guess if you've grown up in the seam and you see this kind of stuff all the time, surely you have some sort of resilience to it, because you're aware that this could happen. You're aware that this is a potential future you see yourself in. Whereas obviously she's grown up in a way that wasn't something she had to worry about as much. Like, even when she went through her reapings, if you're from the more affluent area, you don't need to take the Tessera. You don't need to put your name in more times, so you're less at risk of being picked. So, like, that probably hasn't hardened her in the same way that Katniss has been hardened. So I know Katniss calls it, like, her weakness later on, but is that not just because she grew up in a less, it's still harsh, but it's less harsh than what she's suffering through right now, and so she hasn't developed the skills, effectively, the mental resilience with which to handle this?
It's whether, I guess she wouldn't have had necessarily, like, parents or uncles or grandparents or people like that who she would have necessarily have lost, assuming that the whole kind of her family line was working in, in the merchant side. Because
the majority of people, I guess, starvation or rebellion, like any rebellious act, would be the more likely cause of death. Now, if you're more affluent, the starvation's less of an issue. Like, Peter's from the merchant class, and they have loaves of bread they sell. They're actual fresh baked bread. He decorates patisserie cake. Like, can you think of anything more bougie in District 12 than well-decorated patisserie cake?
And there can't be that many people, really, who can actually afford them.
The peacekeepers. They'd be the ones who are on the capital payroll, so they're profiting directly. But that also means that is money free. And if you're getting peacekeepers who are your, I guess, customers, and your business is reliant, your livelihood is more reliant on the peacekeepers paying as opposed to the capital employing you in the mines, you're also less likely to rebel because you rely on them for your quality of life more directly.
Yeah, it's a whole circle, really, isn't it?
You're caught in this system. So it means that she won't have lost anyone, because to be in that part of District 12, you're in the shit zone, like probably the shittest of the shit zones. But at the same time, that is the better part. And so she has given up a life of a lot more security to be with this guy.
And that's
landed her in this position.
That's something I also wanted to bring up. It was like, that must have been, quote unquote, true love, to throw away arguably good life, or better life, a better life that her parents had tried to give her for love. And I just want to say, Rachel, if you weren't already engaged, would you marry for love or would you marry for money?
Depends how much money we're talking here.
How much money does your fiance have?
So my fiance is self-employed. I've just gone self-employed, but my fiance is self-employed and has been for a while. And because of his work being, I guess, a luxury, he's a photographer. It's not something that everyone is required to do. Not like being a plasterer or a roofer or a tradesman where you have like a reliable income. I am currently like the breadwinner.
Nice.
It is nice, to be honest. I call him my sugar baby, even though he's older than me.
That's funny.
But for that reason, I don't think I'd be good at marrying for money and being like a trophy wife.
I guess because I
need to do things.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, I can't not do things. We've had this discussion several times over the past couple of years. I can't just sit and chill. So like, I'd choose love over money. But like, if I could love the guy with tons of money, that would be excellent.
I mean, that's
kind of the best of both worlds, right?
That's what I keep thinking. As I am, I tried to marry for love. It didn't go very well, but I still believe that marrying for love is the right choice, and that that might happen again in the future. Who knows? But yeah, it would be nice if the two could.
Because it's coincide. Like commingled. Yeah, that'd be fabulous. It's probably why I like reading so many romance novels, because they always somehow seem to be like secret billionaires in the books that I pick up, and they are that's the best kind of billionaire. You fall in love with them for legitimate reasons, and then it turns out they're stinking rich. That is kind of living the dream. But we're also taking this out of context here. We're taking this in terms of like the real world right now. Like, would you go from the merchant class? Would you go to be with the seam? Would you love someone that much that it is worth? Because at this point, if you're marrying into the seam, and I'm saying marrying into the seam as a woman, because I don't know whether the other way around, if you are from the seam marrying into merchant class, if I was a woman going up in the world, as opposed to being from the merchant class and going into the seam. Like, I'm assuming you patriarchal reside with the man. So if he's from the seam, you lose your standing, and if you're from the seam, you gain standing.
Yeah.
Would you be willing, because you're not then just dropping income, you're not dropping, like, I'm happy to risk dropping income for myself, but in this world you're also risking your future children's lives.
That's a very good point. You're putting your future children more at risk as well, because you'll know you'll probably need to take more Tesserae. I hadn't even thought about it from that perspective. So I think if you're going from a perspective of, I want to protect my future children, you'd probably want to marry for money, right? You'd probably be less fussed.
And this, I guess, you're going then back to like Victorian ideals of not marrying outside of class, because of I guess Victorian ideals were more like social stigma, but then a lot of it would be like you are losing that stability, you are risking more illness, because you have less money, you can not afford to treat any illnesses that your kids catch as well.
Yeah, and we obviously hear about that from her mum, but most time before she had her herbs and all that kind of thing, there wasn't really any medication, there's not really any kind of hospitals, there's definitely A&E or anything like that in in probably any of the districts, probably only in the capital. And I think my opinion probably really changes when I put myself into the context of being in District 12 and being in Panem. I feel like I'd have to love someone a lot.
Yeah.
And I guess that really does show then for the mum how much she must have loved the dad, and therefore really does explain this breakdown and this life that she left behind, as good as it could be when you could still potentially have to fight for the death. And I guess you got to put yourself in that perspective. It must feel like her heart has been ripped out of her chest. And you think going through just normal breakups, like how horrible that is, like crying in beds for months. Can you imagine losing someone? Thankfully, we haven't lost partners
People
through
in
death.
that way, yeah.
Yeah, but that must be awful.
Yeah, like I think I've had breakups, but mine have never been like anywhere near as, I guess, hard as other people's. I'm with someone, I've been with them for 7 years. That's my longest running relationship.
Long time.
I can't imagine that our lives are now entwined, right?
Yeah.
You entwine a life with someone, and obviously the breakups that I've been through, like I think I was 16, like childhood boyfriend.
Yeah.
And then I had like a couple of people I was speaking to at uni, but like I'm never actually, like, this is my second, I guess, like relationship, if we count like being a teenager as having a relationship. And that was rough as a first love kind of thing, because that's your first experience of those kind of emotions. And I guess what you've got to think about here is you are in a, like, what's the life expectancy of District 12? It can't be high. It can't be long.
You wouldn't think that, but we do see a fair amount of older people in District 12.
I think Katniss says something like, if you see someone elderly, like, that's an achievement. Like,
yeah,
you want to know them because they've got to that point. And so that's the thing that you found when you have, like, historically, if you have shorter lifespans, on average, your relationships start younger. So you're dealing here with childhood sweethearts. You're dealing here with like the first ever relationship they've had, and they've been together for years and years. She's also not hardened to losing anyone in a breakup sense. She's also not hardened to losing anyone through living with them and separating and even divorcing and having to do all that kind of stuff. This is someone that she's liked since she was a teenager, since they survived the reapings together, up until, if we say that, Katniss is 11 when he dies, and if you say they have been together and married since probably conservatively about 18, that is 33% of her life minimum, doing some very, very quick maths. It's not quite half, but it could very, very easily be half of her. If we go to the fact that she may not have had kids straight away, we don't actually know how old she is. That could very well be close to half of her life that she has spent with this guy. Really
no surprise that she's fallen into this grief. And I think I really want to get further through this post because I really want to talk about more stuff to do with this.
You got some good points coming up, have you?
I know, but I'm like, I'm holding back, Rachel, right now.
Holding back so hard.
Can you imagine losing the main
source of income?
Yeah, main source of income, and then the government gives you what, like a couple of months?
A month. I think it's a month.
Month. Wow.
A singular month. You get 30 days
and then
to grieve, and then that's it.
Yeah, and then you've got to somehow find income. Like, she wasn't even working before, was she? She didn't have a job.
She didn't have no income before. So arguably, what I will probably say is, I think a lot of people have grieving periods. Do you get grieving periods in like America and other places? Let us know.
Well, yeah, I have no idea.
Because like, your maternity leave sucks. I know it varies by state, but America's maternity leave absolutely sucks. In the UK maternity leave, you get, a year?
Yeah.
A year paid, and they've got different levels of pay. I know in previous jobs that I've been in, you get a couple of days paid grief period for your own source.
Yeah.
But I think it's only a couple of days.
Yeah, granted, I think I get a couple of compassionate leave days.
Yeah,
it's what they call it.
Compassionate leave days. And then they are paid days.
Yeah.
But I'm going, you guys get a month? Does the capital done something right?
Oh, yeah, guys, like, thinking it from that perspective, that's, From
that perspective, 30 days earnings. I mean, I guess that comes in with, like, death in service kind of benefits. Like, we can opt in, at least my company in the UK, I think that's kind of a standard thing, like death in service. So, like, you get like an insurance kind of thing from that, where you get a certain amount of money if someone's died on the job. But I don't know how long that is.
But she only, taking this back, she only had a month to get over that.
Get over it. Find
Yeah,
her own
that
job that
feeling.
replaces her husband's earnings in the mines.
But she fell into this kind of hole with this like mental survival strategy, kind of drawing into herself. And I guess, that's, that thing where that really affects Katniss's like view on love, right?
Yes, Katniss sees love as weakness ultimately. Like she cannot justify how loving someone is a good thing. Stay tuned for that episode, because I have a whole thing with Katniss's view on love. Because the girl, it clouds like every single response she has to so many different things. And like girl 16, like this is her model relationship, right? Don't you look for people and look for relationship models within your family? And if you have like negative relationship patterns, you're more likely to experience those patterns as an adult, to seek those relationships, because that's how you think a relationship should be. So she sees what happens to her mother, who is completely distraught, cannot actually function enough to save herself. And Katniss goes, yeah, not worth it.
Yeah, not worth it.
The happiness that I would feel is not worth it for the trauma that I would experience. Though, to be completely honest, this is probably the better model relationship out of the two, because I'm looking at you here, Mitch. Her mother's strategy is a lot less damaging, especially to her liver, than Haymitch's strategy.
Yeah, and we'll have a whole couple of episodes on Haymitch and obviously
his
on
own
the new
story,
book, on Sunrise on the Reaping. I have a lot I want to say about our boy Haymitch, but I'll hold off for now, because this will make this episode
so much longer than it already is.
Exactly.
We're not even halfway through at this point.
And I think it's seeing her mother like this, when Katniss, realizes, okay, well, I can't really fall into love. I need to look after the people that I've got, and she has to figure out a way, right?
Yeah,
to feed these people.
But also, Katniss is Seam, right? And Mother is still Merchant. So if she was still in the Merchant class and this had happened to her, say that she had married the other way, say that she had gone from Seam to Merchant, or even stayed Merchant and managed to bring Papa Everdeen up to Seam.
Papa
Everdeen. So he's a Smurf now.
God.
But say that she'd brought him up to like her class. Like if you were in the Merchant households, you could afford this time, right? You could afford to wallow. You have not like capital luxury, but you have the luxury of stability in that sense. And I guess that is kind of the thing. Like she's treating it as if this had happened to her if she was a merchant. Like
she isn't anymore.
She's not anymore. Like she gave that up, unfortunately, for the situation that she's in now. So that would be perfectly fine if nothing had changed, but it has changed. And I think that's why you see differences between Katniss's approach and her mother's approach, because they are technically two different classes is the best word, but it's two different like situations in life, two different upbringings,
outlooks on the situation. And like you see Katniss finding all these guides from her dad with all the herbs, the things that they can and they cannot eat, and she goes into, you're very much, I've got to figure this out because my mum's not going to do it. Like I need to find a way to figure this out. And it does worry me slightly, because it's like, well, if she hadn't seen these drawings and she hadn't seen these notes, what would have happened? But they have starved. This
is the thing as well. So she sees the dandelion by pure luck. So the reason that she remembers that she can forage and she can do this is after Peter gives her the bread. She's in, I think it's like the next day, she's in the school playground or whatever kind of playground they have in District 12. And she sees a dandelion and she goes, like, she's made it to spring. She's not made it to her 12th birthday. She can't do Tessera yet, but she's made it to spring to the point where she knows what, that she can go foraging for herbs and what things she can buy. And then they go home and they make dandelion soup. And she's like, oh my God, like I can finally like feed them something. We can do something about this. And that's the only reason that they think they survives. Like, so say Peter had given her the bread and it was still the middle of winter and she'd survived a couple more days and that would have been it. So like, how do you survive? And how
You find a way, Rachel.
you
Yeah, everybody
have to.
finds
Do
a
you know what I
way.
mean? But it shouldn't be
Yeah.
on an 11-year-old to find a way.
No, it really should not be on an 11-year-old.
But like, going back to this guide thing, right? So this is something that didn't her dad and her mum create this together, going off like mum's apothecary knowledge and dad's like origin knowledge, and they created this guide together, and that's how she knows what is and what isn't safe to eat. Well, she mentions something like, when going a little bit forward from where we currently are, when Katniss is saying goodbye at the station, she mentions something about, I have the herbs now. Her mum does, like, I have the herbs now, I'm not going to sink back again.
Yeah.
Did she not have the knowledge of those herbs to begin with? I'm assuming like it's things like St. John's wort or whatever, where like they do help with what is actively depression. It is helping with a medical condition. So she manages to rouse herself. So Katniss brings home this rabbit for the first time. I think it's a rabbit, isn't it, that she's her first like kill?
I think so. Yeah.
And she makes this rabbit stew, right? And she manages, like, her mother manages to rouse herself enough to make the stew before she sinks back in. So if she has the ability to sort of break out of it for that little moment in time, it is then possible. So
but yeah,
did she not have the knowledge of these
Yeah.
plants before? Is that a new thing that she has discovered since? Would it be possible for her to have medicated herself in one of those lucid moments?
Well, this is the thing that she must at some point have figured this all out, right? We don't know how she does.
We don't know when she
does.
figured it out.
But I guess we all get this from Katniss's POV, right? She's not the most reliant narrator.
She's really
she
not.
thinks that everybody hates her. She thinks she doesn't have any friends. Like, so we don't find that out from her mum, and her mum must be spending the time to try and make herself feel better and and make herself better.
Katniss is also never home to see that. Katniss is always she's out, she's at school, she's hunting, she's setting snares, and she's like foraging and things. So whatever effort that her mother is making, she'd have no idea about, unless it's in the evening, and most times in the evening you're not really doing much. Like that's kind of like the hardest part of the day. If you're in a depression, is the evening, because it gets darker, there's nothing to focus on as much, like you're not actively doing anything. But then part of me also thinks, because Katniss breeds so much resentment here. If mother did have the knowledge beforehand and it was in this apothecary book, I'm assuming that Katniss can read. I'm assuming that this is a beneficial thing for you to be able to do, right? So would she not have seen those herbs in that book?
I think she probably would have done. She just wouldn't have put two and two together that it would have had those properties. Like, we know Katniss is not a healer. We know she's like a dad. She's a fighter. It's her mum and Prim who are the healers of the family. I don't think Katniss would have seen these notes and thought, oh, that will help with my mum's depression. I don't even think she put two and two together that her mum really had depression. Like, that's not a word that's really used. I don't know how mental health is kind of, spoken
framed,
about
I guess,
in Panem. Yeah, it's probably not really in something in District 12 that we've not really probably spoken about.
I don't think mental health is something you could afford to have in the scene at all. I think if you're in a situation where it is fight or flight the entire time, and so if you sink into anything that's not fight or flight, you will stagnate. And like we say, Katniss's scene, Mother's Merchant, you have a lot more freedom to have emotions and feelings. In Seam, you have to just put up with it and keep going. And that's something Katniss does, but I think she also ignores things. So part of me sort of thinks that information was probably there all along. And whether she didn't put two and two together because she's not a healer, or whether it's because she blinds herself, I don't know. I don't think she's self-involved in the same way, but I think she just thinks so negatively about everything that she blinds herself to hope. She blinds herself to any happiness. That bit of hope that she could have had.
Yeah, we do know something about our girl Katniss is she's
oblivious.
The worst. She also thinks like the worst of pretty much every situation. We know, and we're going to get into it in the pizza episode and the love triangle episode and all of that. I got words. I got things to say.
Oh, God, I'm glad you do, because I do as well.
But we know that she assumes the worst. She thinks everybody hates her. She thinks Pete is only being nice to her to kill her. We realize she didn't even realize Madge was like liked her. She didn't know that half the people.
Turns out we are friends.
Yeah, like we sit together at lunch every day. We do this, we do that. It turns out we are friends. I'm like, girl, Come on now.
There's nothing romantic between me and Gail, and yet Gail's massively jealous
Yeah.
about everything Peter, and she cannot fathom because she's like, it's fake. Like, we're just friends. Like, what are you on about? Like, why are you doing this to me?
Come on,
like,
girl.
yeah,
Come on, Katniss.
because the boy who's 2 years older than you is hanging out with you just because he can. He takes pity on you. I mean, yeah, you have things in common. Don't get me wrong. But I think if you were just friends, he'd be spending his Sundays flirting with somebody else, don't you?
I think we need to be so careful here because we're going to get into a realm episode that we want to do later. And I know
we will save this for later. We have so much to say about this.
I think let's move on. Let's see what else our poster has to say. And yeah,
this is the issue with I guess the book itself. So much stuff is interlinked. Like Suzanne Collins, you genius.
Yeah, honestly,
you absolute genius.
I love her so much. I really do. I'm just a Hunger Games absolutely obsessed. Have been since I was a teenager, and I don't think that's ever gonna go away.
Favorite book series of all time?
Yeah, up there with the favorite book series, especially favorite YA series of all time. Definitely.
Okay, I get that. I get it.
I guess she's starting to acknowledge the fact that even though she didn't see it, she does realize a lot of what Katniss was doing in the background, and she must have done because even when she sends her off for the reaping and everything, there is this kind of acknowledgement that Katniss has been the one to look after them, hunting and getting game. Like, there's no way you can't realize how much your kind of eldest daughter's doing for the family.
Like, if you're not bringing it in, it's got to be coming from somewhere, right? And so you have to question, even if you're not lucid enough in the moment to realize that's what's going on, eventually at some point you need to recognize that. But so we said before that the punishment for like stealing was like death, right?
Yeah.
What's the punishment? Is it death for hunting illegally as well? Or is it just floggings?
Honestly, I think it's best to assume that
the punishment is death.
We know later, not to jump forward too much, but we know kind of later in Catching Fire that Gale gets flogged, right? With a whip for hunting, but that wasn't necessarily something that was happening before because the peacekeepers weren't being as strict. So I think that's what probably was meant to happen to people.
I guess it would depend on how many infractions you have as well, because I guess if you're hunting the first time illegally under the fence, it might well be a flogging. Next time might be harsher lashings, and the third time might be, well, sod you then, execution style.
Yeah,
which is, I guess, like, punishment would usually progressively get worse. And obviously she's risking that day in, day out. And even if she was caught and she was, like, obviously peacekeepers have turned a blind eye up to this point. But if she was caught and she was flogged and all that kind of stuff, what would be her choice? She would have to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, we know she kind of felt like she had no choice with her family because we even find out, she tried to hide the fact of how bad things were at home from the rest of District 12, and because she didn't want her and Prim to end up at a children's home. Like, she talks about where she sees these children's home children coming to school with slap marks on their face. There really isn't anywhere safe for them. Obviously home is the safest place, but there isn't really anywhere fully safe, and Katniss has to become this protector rather than a healer like her mother and Prim, because she just, again, coming back to Prim, doesn't want to see her in a children's home and getting treated like this because the mother can't look after them and because they're literally starving, and she doesn't want anybody to know. She kind of says how she had to watch these other children and these other families starve, and how Panem would always note it as, they died from the flu or they died from pneumonia, but that was never actually the case. Like, that wasn't actually what they died from. So it's so easy for families with both parents and maybe with more income than they had to starve and die. So she was kind of faced with this fear that she had to take on her own in this moment because her mum wasn't really there. That, oh my God, right, now there's nobody, and even these families who are better off than us are dying. Like, what do you do?
And I guess the thing is as well, like, so yeah, she's at home and she doesn't have enough to eat right now, but no one's hitting her. Whereas even in the children's home, like, girl's got her priorities straight, because are you telling me they'd actually have that much more food? It wouldn't be her providing the food, sure, but they wouldn't be any better fed, really. It'd just be a case if you'd have harsher rules, stricter punishments within the home, because I'm assuming the home is run by the state. I'm assuming the home is capital run. It's not like there's some District 12 sitting and taking pity on anyone, is it really? So then you're even more under the Capitol's thumb, and you're being abused as well.
Yeah.
Presumably not for very much. I'm presuming that in those places it's not going to be a rightful kind of, this is your punishment because you've done wrong. It's going to be a case of, you've looked funny, you've taken too long to get in line, where were you after school, kind of slapping about. But that's not to say that she's not under pressure. Like, it's better for her not to be in the home, but the other side of that is, yeah, like, you don't have that risk of corporal punishment, but you take on the added stress. Like, Prim brings home Buttercup, the cat.
I know.
And Katniss's first reaction, which to be fair does make me, when I'm reading it for the first time, kind of hard to like Katniss, because I'm a cat person. And she's saying that she's tried to drown this cat in a bucket because she cannot afford to feed another mouth. And it's only when Prim starts begging her that she keeps the cat, right? Well, also, wait, when did owning a pet ever become a kid's decision and not a parent's?
Yeah.
Like, but that's Katniss's choice because she's effectively the parent right now.
Yeah.
But also, like, I Googled this as well because I have a cat and he's had all sorts of issues and we've had to change his food around, and his food packets are like 80 calories a pop, right? So I went, hang on a minute, cats don't even need that many calories. So I Googled it, and outdoor cats, which is actually not what my cat is, my cat's just indoor and fat, but cats need around 300 calories a day.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Women need 2,000 as a general guideline. Kids, I think, are between like 1,500 and 1,800, depending on like age and stuff. So we're not talking a lot of food here at all. And later on down the line, she says that she ends up feeding the cat entrails, right? But the fact that she cannot justify originally, apart from when Prim starts like begging, she cannot justify an extra 300 calories worth of food a day, which is going to be stuff that by rights they probably won't want to eat. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not down for rabbit intestines. I'm good. I'm not starving, granted.
When
like,
you're that
she
hungry,
can't spare rabbit intestines.
Well, this just shows you how starving they are, like how bad it is. Like it's almost like bringing that cat in could have been an extra death sentence for all of them. There wouldn't have been enough.
Like,
and
a couple of mouthfuls left food would have put them into starvation mode.
Like, they were that close, and I think it's just Katniss had no choice but just to step up and try and handle the situation. And we see she repeatedly tries to protect her mother from information. Like, she tries to protect Prim from going into the children's home, but she tries to protect her mother from situations and information which she now assumes her mother can't handle because of how she sank after her death. Like, moving a little bit forward into catching fire, when Snow comes to visit, she just kind of lies about why Snow came and why Snow left. Because she wants to protect her mother from things and doesn't want her to worry. She's not going to tell her the full truth of this, this very serious situation that starts happening, which I know we're going to talk about in further episodes, so I won't get into now. But she puts herself almost more at risk, so Prim and her mum don't have to be. And we see that when she puts her names into the tesserae and, into the ballot and into the reaping so many more times than anyone really should have to.
See, it feels to me like Katniss has become the parent, but more than that, it's like her mother has become the child. It's like it's not even like Katniss has stepped up as an equal to run the household, like on par, like you find a lot of elder kids do when there's a divorce or a parent is lost or something. There's always like, if you're in a multiple child family, a lot of people do step up to like give mum a hand with the younger kids or whatever. Yeah. But it's not even that's the case. It's not even like Katniss and her mother are on the same level. Prim's now like not the only child. Her mother has down to that point because Katniss doesn't feel like she can handle adult things. But then Katniss is a child herself still, trying to like get into. And when we're going into Catching Fire, it's a very political thing as well. We're not even just talking about putting food on the table. We're talking about her going effectively head to head with the leader of the state.
Yeah. This is like, what, a 16, 17-year-old going head to head with, how old is he? 80 something.
He must be 80 something.
I mean, I have my own comments
And
about
he's still
how
as threatening.
weird this is. Yeah, like their relationship is weird. It's unsettling
Yeah,
in many ways.
I'm gonna have to bring it. Now. I need to say. I need to say it. I know
You
we're getting ahead of things.
You can't
I can't control it. But an 80-year-old man is telling a 16, 17-year-old girl
It's
to convince him
weird.
that she's in love.
It's weird.
It's a bit, yeah, just a bit.
It's weird. It's uncomfortable. It's like, it's not just uncomfortable because it's an uncomfortable situation. It's uncomfortable because that's weird.
It's weird. It is weird.
It's weird.
But then, once again, like, she should not have to deal with that.
No.
She is 16 and she should have, like, in our society standards, she would have, like, a child advocate in any kind of conversation like that is threatening her life.
Rachel, I think in a society where they make them go and fight to the death and get bludgeoned and then cheer about it, there's no one having a child advocate.
I mean, you could argue that the mentor is part of that.
Hamish is a child advocate. He's drunk half the time.
And Effie's only bothered about herself, so you know.
Oh yeah, well we'll get into that. We'll get into our girl Effie.
Yeah. But like, poor girl is doing her best. She's trying. Yeah. So like, they say they're getting by all right now, but she still hunts. Like,
yeah, she still supplies for them.
And I think she says she makes a little bit of money here and there, but it's not really what's keeping them afloat at all. Is it possible for her to have gotten a job that would have paid enough for them to live? Like, is that even a feasibility within this? Is that something that is in her capacity to do?
I don't know. I don't know what skills she even has other than the herbs and the tending to people's injuries.
Because I think, so like, going ahead to like catching fire when she's treating Gale, even that's kind of, I guess, a little bit taboo because the injuries were inflicted by the capital, by the peacekeepers, in terms of like, that was a punishment. And so her treating his injuries, he's meant to sort of deal with those injuries as part of the punishment and like suffer with them. And she's instead helping.
But like even then she starts treating people for no payment because it gets so bad. I think something important that you said was when Gale and Katniss are in the forest talking and they're talking about running away and they say that you might as well throw their parents in.
The parents of the kids, like their parents are another mouth to feed. But that's not just Katniss, that's also Gale as well. So is there even a physical structure in which the mother could provide for them? Because we're kind of like judging her here by her not stepping up enough to do that. Now, is it a possibility for her to even provide for them? Like, are we out of the realms of what she is physically capable of doing? And is Katniss then quite harsh about her because of that? Is this the reason why that she hasn't stepped up? Because she actually physically can't?
But I guess this whole thing of everything coming full circle, if her mum had been able to step up and the mum had been able to look after them properly and Katniss didn't have to hunt and Katniss didn't have to go and get these skills by far gave her a better chance than the other kids in the district to win these games. We have to be honest. In the end, like, that is what allowed her to win. They don't get, they're not careers. They don't get any, well, it's not meant to be official training, like training people's meant to be legal, but they don't get training. That's probably the best skills any of them are going to get is through hunting and through trying to survive. We all know they stopped teaching some very important blowing up skills just after Hamish's game. And well, we'll get into that later. We're not going to talk about that now, but they kind of just stripped them of important skills. And I think this idea of, if the mom had stepped up, would Katniss even be alive?
So, like, her dad had taught her some of these skills beforehand, right? So she'd been into the woods with him, learning some of these survival skills, what she can and can't eat. That's why they had the book. And she had, like, some skill that's her dad prepared her to help them survive. Whether he did any of that knowingly, knowing how risky his job was, whether that was part of just father-daughter bonding, or whether it was like a meaningful life skill he thought she should have. But then, even though she'd had that skill, she would have had 3 days to practice that skill in the training arena. Whereas now she's had 5 years worth. And even then, in the training arena, like, she went in and the bow felt different and the arrows flew differently than what she was used to. So can you imagine having not shot a bow and arrow in 6-7 years probably at that point. And feeling a completely different weight, whereas she can now quickly adjust. She knows what she can eat. She saves Peter by not eating the berries that would have been poisonous.
Yeah.
So she has a lot of these skills that's what give her the fighting chance. She would not have survived that long without. But also, I think, would she have volunteered?
Well, I was about to say, would Prim still be alive? But she, I think, would have died either way from what we know happens and the sequence of events and everything. I don't know. I would like to think that she might have still volunteered because she was still fond of her sister prior to that all happening. But I think if she had ended up in the games, I don't think she would have won because she would not have had the skills
to actually do anything. And then don't forget as well, so if she wasn't, she references like hunting game, and she references like the physical exertion of like tracking animals and climbing trees and setting snares for why she is strong as well. So if she wasn't doing any of that in the first place and she was malnourished like every other kid, she wouldn't have even had the physical strength. And even then, she's quite slight, she's quite small, she's not tall or muscly or beefy by any stretch of the imagination, but she has stamina.
Yeah.
And that's the stamina that helps her run away from the fireballs and the mutts and stuff as well. So she wouldn't have even had that to fall back on.
I think this is very much a case of everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, for a dark reason, turns out.
Very, very dark reason. Yeah, I think without that, she wouldn't have stood much of a chance at all. So I want to compare, I know we're not meant to be skipping really far ahead, but I want to compare this briefly to how desperate Katniss feels when Peter gets electrocuted in the catching fire arena. Like, we see her screaming, we see her upset, we see her wanting Finnick to, bring him back to life. And not to go too much to depth into this, because I know we are going to go into depth in future episodes about this relationship that I love so much and this situation. But like, I really want to get into it.
I can see you struggling to hold that.
I know. But, we've seen that desperation from Katniss when she actually learns to start to try and love someone and to have that connection with someone. And that I feel like, she might actually finally start to understand these feelings that her mum was feeling when her dad died. I'm not sure if you felt the same.
Yeah, I can't. She is sort of understanding that. I think at this point in time where she's at right now, she does see love as weakness. She's so against anything that can, elicit any sort of emotion within her, really. But then I guess she still sees herself as being Peter's protector there. She's still in charge.
That's probably a whole other...
That's a whole other thing. But she's begging Finnick to get him back during these. So it's not even just that she's deep in love with him and doesn't want to lose him, because then I think she would just sink and cry. But she is so like, no, this is what needs doing. She is a girl of action because of all the experience that has brought her through. And I think that's part of the disconnect between them as mother and daughter. And I think we've come to the conclusion by this point that there wasn't really anything that her mother could have done.
Yeah.
To actually provide in the first place. But I don't think Katniss necessarily sees it from that perspective. She just sees that the hardship that she has gone through. And I don't want to diminish like what Katniss has gone through and who she is now as a person because of it. Because that entire 5-year period has shaped her in ways that no other kid has been shaped in the districts. So, like, they say that, like, District 12 hasn't had a volunteer in decades. Now, I think the only reason that Katniss volunteers for Prim is because she effectively took on the role as Prim's mother. They aren't just siblings anymore. That's not her younger sister to look after, because she volunteers in Prim's place when no one else volunteers for their younger sibling. Peter has 2 older brothers, she notes. She literally says after she's volunteered for Prim, Peter has 2 older brothers, one of whom would still roughly be of age to take over, and no one does that for him because family loyalties only go so far. Same thing happens with Rue. She's watching Rue.
Yeah, I know.
And
this is so painful.
no one volunteers for Rue.
Yeah.
But when Katniss volunteers on behalf of Prim, like, it's not until they're in the room afterwards that Katniss decides she will fight because Prim asks her to fight.
To come back, yeah.
When she volunteers, she is resigned to her fate of, and she literally says, like, corpse and tribute are synonymous in District 12. They mean the same thing because they've had two winners in the entirety of the games.
You're one of them, they don't know who it is.
One of them, they have no idea who it is.
Yeah.
And one of them's Haymitch, and he's a drunkard.
Yes, he's drunk all the time.
So, like, even then, like, even if she does survive somehow, she's not expecting to come back with any sort of life. Yeah. But she's expecting to go and die. She's not volunteered just to take Prim's place in the arena to fight and win. She has volunteered to take her place to die. And how many siblings would do that for their younger sibling? They'd be upset, sure.
Yeah, well, we see in the Pan Am Hunger Games world that there aren't really any other siblings willing to do that.
There really aren't.
To step up and die for another one. And I think this shows a lot about Katniss's character and how much here she wants to protect Prim, willing to die for Prim. And, you know, we see in the arena, she's almost willing to die to protect Rue. She kind of lets all kind of safety go out the window running towards her when she's screaming to try and, like, help and keep her alive. We kind of see that survival strategy go straight out the window. Like, she almost does become the protector of the young girls who remind her of Prim.
She's like a mother for the lost kids. Because I think that's the thing. Katniss can volunteer on behalf of Prim, whereas any parent couldn't. Any parent who would be willing to die for their child is out of the age bracket. That's part of the brutality of it. So the only reason that she does volunteer is because she is now mother and she can. And no other dynamic between the two of them would have put her in that position in the first place.
Yeah.
And then even, like, when she's saying goodbye to Prim, she's not just, like, telling her the life skills for, like, the thing and giving her the plan that they've concocted. She says, like, stay in school and stuff. And, like, how parental is that? To be like, don't take out the tesseract, you can survive this way. This is... And even then, her last time with her family is dominated by her looking after her family. She's not saying goodbye to them.
Yeah,
she's not
crying. Still. She's not emotional. I think she remarks that Peter gets on the train and looks like he's been crying.
Yeah.
It's like, is that correct? Yeah, like, he's the emotional one in this relationship and this partnership that starts to happen. I mean, we know that's the whole discussion for later, but she's just had to push all kind of emotion to the side.
She's not been able to be emotional, but she also says, like, to give her a G, she also says that she doesn't want to appear weak. She does not want to be weak on camera. She does not want anyone in the Capitol to see her weakness.
But
and they also, like, take bets
camera?
on that. Not even then. I think she has, like, one meltdown and cries in the room in the Capitol after her private session. But you know what she's crying over? She's crying over the fact that she thinks she sent her family to death. She thinks she's screwed up so badly that they're going to punish her family. Not her. She's not worried about herself.
Yeah, not crying for the fact that she's going to go in and probably get slaughtered. She's crying about her family.
She's crying about the fact that she's going to go and die.
Them.
And she can't protect them. And now to punish her for what her actions are in a moment of weakness where she fought back for herself and stood up for herself, she thinks that they will harm her mother and her sister, which is horrifying.
Can you even imagine being in that situation and then still realizing, oh, if I do anything while I'm trying to protect myself from getting slaughtered and I'm trying to keep myself alive,
if you do anything even slightly radical,
that your family could die. I mean, that's a whole conversation for Haymitch episodes, but I'm not going to get into that now because I'm going to get so annoyed. But yeah, geez, like, it's been such a domino effect for this family and for Katniss.
But I think as well, part of the, like, am I the asshole question is, like, I don't think her mother's ever addressed with her that that is an unfortunate position for her to have been in, but it's not ever what was intended. Do you want to, like, because I think we've agreed that there wasn't anything else that could possibly have happened in this scenario, and but Katniss did take on a responsibility that was far too young for the age that she was at the time to be a parent, effectively at 11 years old, keeping people alive. Do we not think that it could have been addressed between the two of them? Though, like, they've never had. It seems to me like the same way that Katniss doesn't speak to Peter about that loaf of bread. Katniss and her mother don't speak about any of the
We know she
changes
ignores.
between them.
We know she ignores a lot. We know she doesn't acknowledge a lot
Anything.
of problems. She's okay with physical conflict, but she's not okay with emotional conversations and emotional conflict. Like her and Gail never talk about what could be going on between them.
Yeah.
Like her and Peter rarely talk really about what's happening, especially at the beginning and leading up to that. We know her mum and her have never really had that kind of relationship. We don't know if her and her dad did. I don't think so. And we know her and her only friend, who she only realised was a friend until later, that they probably never had conversations like that either. So she's incredibly emotionally closed off. So it comes as no surprise that that was never spoken about.
But then going back to the conversation around how your relationships are modelled by those around you, her mother shut down the emotions rather than processing the grief and sunk into a depression, and then she comes out of it and also doesn't actually speak about what happened. So Katniss has learned to smother any sort of feeling that isn't head down, puffing the table, survive. So can we blame Katniss at any point for her reactions to her mother when her mother hasn't also modelled, like, even if we put the depression and the grief and the losing the father to one side and we experience that happened and it is what it is, and it's a mental health issue, and there's no solving that, there's no working through that within this infrastructure. It could have been addressed later. It could have been a conversation between them, because we're also saying here that we're forgiving her mother because of her being merchant, because that is how she could deal with emotions, because she's not hardened. But then she hasn't passed on any of that softer side to her daughter, to have interpersonal relationships. It's kind of a double-edged sword in both ways.
Most of that soft side's gone to Prim, really, hasn't it?
But Prim looks exactly like her as well. Prim takes after the fairness and the blonde and the looking merchant, whereas Katniss takes after her dad and like colouring, and she's dark haired and things like that. So I think that's even why, like, Prim has favour, not just with like her mother and them having the close relationship, because Prim does forgive the mother, but I don't know. It just says that she forgives her. How do they come about that? I can't imagine that Prim initiates a conversation at 7 years old.
I imagine it's just a case of they didn't speak about it and then they just
put it to one side, and Katniss just can't put it to one side.
Yeah, I imagine that's just what happened. I mean, there's a lot to consider here. And as we kind of go into the end of this episode, and we have to think, you know, this is the fundamental question here. Is she an arsehole for putting her in this situation? And what do we think the verdict is, Rachel?
I think it's an unfortunate situation. I think there's nothing that either of them could have done in those, what I'm going to say, like, estimating couple of months to a couple of years of change. Like, nothing else could have happened in that way. But I don't think it's on Katniss to initiate the conversation. She's still a child. I don't think it's on Katniss at any point to try to reconcile with her own mother. I think that should have been brought up before now. Yeah, like, I think Katniss will say later on, like, at least the last thing she said to her mum was that she loved her, like, no matter how, like, not close they are now. But I don't think she's the arsehole for, like, letting her daughter take over in that sense. There was nothing else she could have done. But I do think that maybe she could have been a bit more adult coming out of it and picked up a bit more of that burden, even not physical burden, but emotional burden from Katniss again, and not let her stay there.
I think no one in this situation is an arsehole. I think it's a horrible set of circumstances which has made kind of the perfect storm, and we know we've seen how much she must have loved him, how heartbroken and how horrible that must have been. We've seen how that's affected the children. We've seen how that's kind of come full circle with Katniss meaning, adopting and nurturing those skills that her dad gave her, leading to the games. Yes, I do wish that Katniss hadn't had to become the protector and the mum figure in the relationship, but I feel like I said, it was a perfect storm, and there didn't seem to be a way to stop that really happening.
Yeah, and I think as well, even if I do wish a conversation had been initiated, like, no one is an asshole for this. This is just kind of like, it is what it is. And everyone's done the best they can. But then I also think, like, yeah, that conversation should have been initiated. But then at this point in time, at Katniss being 16 and holding so much anger, because girl is pissed. She is not happy about this situation.
Yeah, I know.
But at this point in time, Katniss is still a child, and Katniss is still emotionally stunted because of the trauma that she's been through here. There'd been no common ground for them to find over this. Later down the line, when Katniss is getting to be a teenage girl and decide between Gale and Peter and figuring out love, all that kind of thing, at least then she'd have a frame of reference for how bad her mother felt. At least then her mum can say, look, like, if you lost your significant other, how would you feel? But right now, even if they had that conversation, would it have been productive? I think something should have been tried. It should have been attempted, but I don't know how far it would have gotten them. So, like, I don't think anyone's an asshole. I think it is just what it is. But some choices could have been made that may have made a shitty situation slightly better.
I think, on that note, if you have made it to the end, if you have made it to the conclusion of this episode talking about Katniss's mother and Katniss and their relationship, you've done really well, because
well done.
Yeah, recording this has taken a long time.
A lot longer than we expected.
Yeah, God knows how long this episode is going to be, but we really appreciate you sticking it out, and we want to know what your thoughts are about this situation.
Yeah. Who do you think's the asshole? Do you agree with anything that was said? Do you disagree? Have you thought of things that we haven't come up with despite 20 pages of notes?
Or maybe you kind of agree where there isn't an arsehole in this situation, and it is a horrible circumstance of living in District 12 and living under the thumb of the capital, and sadly, this is what happens to some of the families there.
Yeah, that is kind of the situation that you live in. And unfortunately, I think there was nothing else that could have been done.
So I'm going to end this with a question.
Okay.
If you were reaped, what's the first skill you'd brag about in your interview?
Okay, I have no survival skills.
You can't brag about not having any survival skills.
I'd say creativity, I suppose. I mean, I guess when you're in an arena, like, you need to have some sort of awareness of, like, what can be done around you. Like, so say, like, you don't go rushing into the cornucopia to get weapons. What are you going to do? What are you going to make? Like, how do you fend for yourself? Maybe I could figure that out. Maybe. I don't know. I feel like I'd be done in 5 minutes. Like, I don't think I have enough skills to brag about, to be entirely honest to you.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, what skills do I have? And I'm like, would I try and pretend to be smarter than I am? Would I try and be like, oh yeah, I'm really good at, like, thinking ahead in situations? But then I'm just thinking, is that just the anxiety? I can't brag about having anxiety and thinking about, like, this is how not to die.
I mean, to be fair, you've thought of every possible scenario. You've probably got a plan ahead from the second that you get reaped. You've probably got a plan ahead of how you're going to handle everything. That's kind of, I guess, is it a survival skill? But also, are you bragging about an actual skill, or are you, like, using your charisma as a skill to
people do that though,
get sponsors? Like, are you gonna fake it till you make it? Because I'm pretty damn good at that, to be honest. Yeah,
I think your drama degree just might have to come into good use.
Just pretend, just fake it that I actually am. I'm a career. I'm secretly a career. Doesn't care what district I'm from. Turns out I've been training my entire life, and I am the most competent, despite my rheumatoid joints and the fact that I would fall out of a tree on the first day and probably break something.
Rachel, at least you got into the tree. I don't think I'll get into up the tree. I won't be able to get up a tree.
I wouldn't be able to get down it. That would never happen.
Just stay up there, it's fine. Yeah. Everyone else can just die.
Just stay in the tree and hope the sponsors just parachute me gifts.
Yeah, everyone else can just die. It's
That's
fine.
fine. Yeah.
Just wait it out. That would probably be my technique. I'm not gonna lie. I don't want to face anybody in
But
an
then,
arena.
but they would just like Katniss tried to like wait stuff out, right? Well, she went too far the other way and she's reaching the edge and they turned her around and stuff like that. But like, wouldn't they just do that? Wouldn't be like, well, she's not giving us enough time on camera, so
That's true. I forget
throw
about
some
how,
fireballs at her.
Yeah, how they just want good TV.
They do just want good TV.
Yeah.
Like they don't care. They will kill you for sport. If the
That's
other
what
tributes
this
don't
is.
kill you, they will kill you.
That's basically what this is. Okay. We're going to go off on a whole nother tangent.
We are going to have
which will be for another episode. But
we'll throw that question to you guys as well. If you were reaped, what's the first skill you'd brag about? And do you think you would survive?
we want to know. I want to know. I want to know what people's skills are. There probably is some really interesting skills out there.
There'll be people like who actually have beneficial skills. Like we have stunt doubles and stuff. Like for people who can like do like full on like martial arts, like better than like your local gym club could do. Like people out there are taught to fence and can handle swords and stuff, and that's a whole hobby. Like I think I'm gonna put my bets on you guys. If somehow you can throw knives, I'm gonna say you're gonna win.
If there are any interesting ones, we might explore that on one of the episodes. But I know that kind of wrapping this up, that the next episode is about our dear Effie.
Our next episode is about our dear Effie. So do you want a spoiler of what the episode title is going to be?
Yeah.
Or should we leave that for next time? So Pretty and Polite is our dear Effie's username, and she's asking, am I the asshole for going along with an unjust system because it gives me comfort, stability, and status? So once again, another difficult one. We aren't making this easy for ourselves.
No, we really aren't making this easy for ourselves. There's going to be a lot of comments about this, and I'm assuming a lot of general capital citizen comments.
Oh, 100%.
About how this game works and runs. So
you can't judge Effie without judging the system that she grew up in either.
Yeah, so
I've got to give her the same treatment as the mother did.
Yeah, I can't wait to get my teeth into that next time.
That's going to be a doozy.
Everyone else will be interested by the comments as well. We'll see if it's as long as this episode.
I'm sat on the floor right now. My hips are killing me. So hopefully it won't take as long to record.
Fingers crossed. But thank you for everyone for listening. We really appreciate you listening, and all the other Hunger Games fans out there and Readers fans out there. We want to know what your thoughts are, because I love talking about this series, and I could, as you've probably noticed, talk about this series forever. So yeah.
Thank you for watching our lovely little brainchild of a podcast. And we will see you next episode.
See you next episode.
Bye guys.
Thanks for listening to our podcast, and don't forget to let us know your thoughts on all of our potential assholes.
No matter what platform you listen to us on, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, upvote and all that stuff.
If you like what we do and want to find out more, all of our platforms are listed in the description or show notes. We're a 2-person team, so any support or feedback is always greatly received.
Tune in next time to Once Upon a Red Flag.
Have you ever seen anyone eat pizza in the Hunger Games? Do they have pizza?
I mean, theoretically, Katniss could make a pizza because she's got Prim's goat cheese.
Yeah.
And they have grain that they make bread from.
Yeah.
It's like shit bread.
But tomatoes?